Nathan Hale walked carefully through the quiet grove, his boots pressing into the soft, mossy soil of the alien moon. The air was thin but breathable, filled with the faint scent of wildflowers and a strange sweetness he couldn't name. His scanner beeped lightly in his hand, tracking plant growth and air quality. This part of the moon, called Section 7G, had been marked as a restricted area by the human colonists. Officially, it was for safety. Unofficially, no one liked to talk about it. People said it gave them a strange feeling, like they were being watched. Nathan was a junior xenobotanist, not a soldier. He didn't believe in ghost stories. He believed in plants, data, and facts. But when he stepped into the grove that day, he froze. Dozens of tall, stone-like figures stood across the field. At first, they looked like statues. Some knelt, others stood with arms raised, and a few appeared to be reaching for the sky. They were all different, all beautiful in a way, but also silent, still, and unsettling. His scanner didn't register any of them as alive. To the machine, they were just mineral objects, dead. But to Nathan's eyes, something felt off. He walked closer to one of the figures. It was tall, slender, and clearly not human. Its face had soft features, gentle eyes, narrow jaw, long fingers stretched upward. Unlike the other statues, this one seemed more recent, less worn. Then it blinked. Nathan stumbled back, heart pounding. He stared. The alien blinked again. Its eyes were purple and glowing faintly. They looked straight into his. It wasn't a statue. She was alive. Nathan stepped closer, slowly. The alien didn't move except for her eyes. Her skin was a smooth, pale blue with glowing lines that pulsed like slow lightning. Her body was motionless from the waist down. Her legs, no, her roots were buried deep in the soil, covered with a hard, gray cement-like substance. He knelt beside her, whispering softly, "Can you hear me?" Her eyes blinked once. Yes. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She blinked twice. No. Why? Why are you stuck? No answer. But suddenly his mind filled with strange images. A bright courtroom, a group of aliens shouting, human soldiers in armor, and then her forced into a pit. A thick fluid poured over her legs, hardening as she screamed without sound. Nathan stood up, heart heavy. She hadn't chosen this, it was a punishment. He pulled out his communicator. He wanted to call base to report it, but something stopped him. If she had been buried here by order, they wouldn't help her. They might silence her completely. He looked around again. All the statues, were they like her once, alive? Had they also been buried as punishment? He couldn't leave her like this. "I'll come back," he said, stepping back. "I'll help you, I promise." Her eyes followed him, glowing a little brighter. There was a flicker of hope in them now. He turned and walked quickly out of the grove, heart racing. The forest felt colder than before. The trees seemed to whisper, and the wind carried a warning. Nathan had found something terrible, and something beautiful. And now, he had a choice to make. Save her, or stay silent. Nathan Hale reached the research outpost feeling uneasy. The grove had felt alive, as if it had been waiting for him. Now, the hum of computers and the hiss of air vents in the lab reminded him of stark metal walls and flashing screens. He set his pack down and activated his personal terminal. He began by reviewing the colonial records on the Thalan species. According to the files, the Thalan were a peaceful race of plant-like beings. Their bodies contained chlorophyll, and they lived by absorbing sunlight and water. They rarely ventured from their home planet until the humans arrived. Once on this moon, the Thalan made contact in hopes of sharing knowledge and resources. But contact did not go smoothly. As humans terraformed the moon, violent storms and sudden chemical changes altered the Thalan forests. Crop failures and water shortages followed. The colonists blamed the Thalan for disrupting the terraforming operations. A court convened, and many Thalan were accused of sabotage. The punishment for such crimes was severe. Offenders were cemented into the soil, destined to live or die, entwined with the earth. Nathan's stomach twisted when he read about the ceremonies. The records described how the Thaylen were laid in shallow pits. A gray, resin-like cement formed around their legs, binding them to the ground. Over time, most perished from exposure or from their own root systems strangling their life force. The bodies, still alive when bound, became part of grotesque monuments by order of military command. He swallowed hard. These details matched the statues in the grove. Each silent figure had once been a living being. His lab partner, Dr. Louise Grant, entered. She carried a steaming cup of tea that hissed as she set it down. "You look pale," she said. "I found her," Nathan whispered. A Thaylen girl, cemented into the ground alive. And the records, they were all lies. She was never a saboteur. Louise frowned. "You can't just ignore protocol. If you report unauthorized contact, they'll lock you out of the project. They'll destroy the evidence." Nathan shook his head. "Someone lied. I saw her eyes. She was scared, not guilty. I have to help her." Louise took a deep breath. "If you proceed, you'll be branded a traitor. You know what happens to traitors here. Are you sure you're ready for that?" He studied her face. Louise was strict but fair. If she was warning him, the danger must be real. Yet he felt compelled to act. "I can't stand by," he said quietly. Louise's gaze softened. "All right, I'll help you gather data, but we have to be careful. I'll upload the plant scanner logs, all the soil chemistry reports, the maintenance videos from Section 7G. Someone tampered with the equipment." Nathan nodded. Over the next hour, they worked in hushed tones. Louise helped him bypass security protocols to access the surveillance footage. They discovered that on the night Sierra was bound, the environmental sensors had been shut off for exactly 5 minutes. During that blackout, someone in human armor approached the grove carrying a container of the gray resin. Nathan's pulse quickened. He rewound the video. The figure's stature and gait looked familiar. It was Colonel Varick, the head of the terraforming unit. Varick was known for his strict methods and outspoken belief that aliens were inferior. He had publicly advocated for harsher measures against the Thaylen to speed up the terraforming process. Nathan stared at the screen. Varick's helmet concealed his face, but his broad shoulders and even broader boots were unmistakable. "He did this," Nathan said, voice low. "He set her up." Louise laid a hand on his arm. "We need proof, and we need witnesses. If we confront him without that, we'll be crushed." They packed the data onto an encrypted drive. Louise promised to analyze the soil samples to show the resin contained human-made polymers, not natural Thaylen compounds. Nathan felt a spark of hope. They had a plan: gather evidence, expose Varick, and free Sierra. That night, Nathan returned to the grove under a pale blue moon. He carried a small device, a modified scanner that could read neural signals through thin layers of resin. He knelt beside Sierra. The device hummed softly as he placed it near the cement bonds. A moment later, images flooded his mind. Bright flashes of a broken solar array, the cave of a Thaylen family uprooted by a storm, and the face of Colonel Varick, giving orders over a crackling radio. He saw Sierra's fear as the resin poured over her legs. He felt her anger, sharp and cold, directed not at the humans, but at the man who betrayed her. When the images faded, Nathan whispered, "I have your proof. You were innocent." Sierra's eyes glowed with relief. For the first time since he found her, her shoulders lifted slightly. She pressed her forehead against the scanner device in gratitude. Nathan smiled, though he knew the real challenge lay ahead. He rose and brushed dirt from his pants. As he stepped back, he spotted a patrol jet descending. It cast a long shadow across the grove. Nathan's heart thudded. He tucked the drive into his pocket and moved to hide behind a cluster of tall, spindly trees. From this night on, nothing would be the same. Nathan had seen the roots of injustice, and now he would uproot them, no matter the cost. Under the cool glow of the moon, Nathan Hale crouched behind a cluster of slender alien trees. His heart pounded as the patrol jet's searchlight swept the grove. He pressed himself flat, clutching the encrypted drive in one hand and his data scanner in the other. Beside him, Sira, her legs still bound in gray resin, watched him with silent trust. The jet passed without noticing them. Nathan exhaled and whispered, "We need to move fast." He tapped the scanner's interface. It projected a 3D image of the resin matrix. The bonds were thicker than he first thought, woven into Sira's skin with living root fibers. Removing them risked injuring her or even ending her life. Still, Nathan had no choice. He had to free her. Back at the outpost workshop, Nathan spread tools across a smooth metal table: a micro laser cutter, a biosafe solvent injector, and a neural stabilizer he had modified from medical gear. Louise Grant had helped him assemble these parts under strict secrecy. Now, as the lab's main power cycled on and off, the lights flickered over the instruments like distant stars. Sira stood in a reinforced field cage, her skin's phosphorescent lines dimming in the artificial light. She looked thin and tired, but she met Nathan's gaze with quiet determination. She could not speak aloud, but her telepathic presence echoed in his mind. "I trust you." Nathan pressed a button on the microlaser. It hummed to life. He aimed its fine beam at the edge of the resin on Sira's right leg. The laser glowed blue, etching a delicate line through the cement. Dust rose in tiny clouds that vanished in an instant. Sira flinched but did not cry out. Nathan's hand was steady. Beside him, Louise monitored Sira's vital signs on a hollow display. "Her neural patterns are stable," she said softly, "but the resin is mixed with thalin root fibers. They bond faster than any human alloy." Nathan nodded. He shifted to the left leg and repeated the process. Each pass of the laser cut deeper, careful not to heat the living tissue underneath. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He had studied thalin biology for months, but nothing prepared him for this moment. The alien's life hung by a thread. After a slow minute that felt like hours, Nathan paused. He raised his hand. "Hold on," he told Louise. He knelt beside Sira and pressed his forehead gently against hers. He felt her pulse, calm and strong. He heard her gratitude. "You're doing great," he whispered. "Just a little more." He resumed cutting. The final layer of resin cracked away with a soft snap. Sira's foot slipped free, exposing pale blue skin and faint green veins. Louise injected the solvent around the remaining bonds. The clear fluid seeped in and dissolved. The resin's adhesive compounds. In seconds, the cement crumbled like dry sand. Sira flexed her toes. Then with effort, she lifted her leg. She stood on one foot, swaying as she found her balance. Nathan and Louise exchanged relieved smiles. But their triumph was short. An alarm blared. The workshop doors slid open with a mechanical hiss. Two guards in blue uniforms stood framed by harsh white light, rifles pointed at Nathan. "Hands where we can see them," one guard ordered. Nathan raised his arms. Louise backed away, shielding Sira with a raised arm. Sira's glowing eyes flickered, between hope and fear. Nathan stepped forward, voice steady. "I'm Nathan Hale, xenobotanist. I was clearing the bonds to save this innocent Thalin." "Colonel Varick." The guard's expression hardened. "Quiet. You're under arrest for unauthorized operations and assault on an officer." He moved toward Nathan, rifle aimed at his chest. But before he could cuff him, Sira reached out. Her hand hovered near the guard's uniform. The air shimmered as her telepathic power surged. The guard froze, rifle lowering as if drawn by an invisible current. His eyes glazed over. Nathan tugged at his cuff. "Sira, stop!" he shouted. Sira blinked and the guard snapped out of it, stumbling back. He shook his head, confused. What did you do?" The second guard raised his rifle again, but Louise stepped in front of Sira. "She's not a threat," Louise said firmly. "Colonel Varick used this girl as a scapegoat. We have evidence. You should arrest him." The guards hesitated. Nathan took the moment. He pulled the encrypted drive from his pocket. "All the data, sensor logs, video, polymer analysis, it's here. Send a team to Section 7G. You'll find the other statues alive once you free them. The guards glanced at each other. Their radios crackled. Command says, verify credentials. The first guard lowered his weapon. Nathan exhaled slowly. He had stalled them, but only for a moment. He turned to Sira. Can you stand? He asked. Sira nodded. She took Nathan's hand and he helped her step off the platform. She wobbled at first, then found her footing. Her glowing lines brightened as she felt free. Louise led the guards to the holo display. She input the override code and streamed the surveillance footage. On the table, guards watched Colonel Varick's silhouette pouring resin over Sira's legs. One guard's eyes widened. Colonel Varick, he would never. He shook his head. We need to take this up the chain. Nathan pressed the drive into the guard's hands. Do it quickly. If he covers his tracks, you'll lose your chance. The guards nodded. Nathan turned back to Sira. She smiled softly, her lips curving in relief. She looked at him with gratitude deeper than words. Under a pale blue moon, the grove lay silent and still. Tall statues rose like ghosts among the trees. Nathan Hale moved through the shadows, his heart thumping against his ribs. He carried a small device in one hand, his modified biolift generator, and a compact transmitter in the other. Beside him, Dr. Louise Grant checked the portable scanner one last time. Everything's set, Louise whispered. The field generator is down for 2 minutes. After that, the guards will notice. Nathan nodded. He could hear Sira's soft breathing ahead, trapped in the soil like a tree. The plants near her shimmered with her life energy. They were ready. Louise crouched beside a control panel hidden in vines. She pulled out a slim data spike and plugged it into the panel's port. Sparks danced at the connection point. The force field flickered and died. A low hum faded, leaving the grove bathed in lunar light. Nathan hurried forward. We have 2 minutes, he called softly. He set the biolift generator beside Sira's legs. The device was a crude assembly of coils and wires held together by Nathan's hope. He attached the clamps to the resin bonds where they met the ground. Louise stood by with a vial of biostabilizer, ready to inject if Sira's vital signs dropped. Nathan activated the generator. A quiet pulse of energy spread through the clamps and into the resin. Under the moonlight, the gray cement began to glow with pale blue lines. Slowly, the bonds loosened. Nathan adjusted the power dial, careful not to spike the current. Sira winced, a faint hiss in her mind. Nathan pressed his hand to her shoulder. It's okay, Sira, he telepathically whispered. Just hold on. He could feel her gratitude mixed with pain. The bonds cracked like ice on a winter pond. One by one, they splintered away. But then the ground shook. Alarms blared from hidden sensors. Louise cursed under her breath. The generator lost power. Nathan's device sputtered and stopped. He looked up to see guard drones hovering at the edge of the grove, searchlights cutting through the trees. No time, Louise shouted. She grabbed the biostabilizer and injected it into Sira's neck implant. The alien's skin flared brighter as the medicine flowed through her veins. Sira forced her hips forward and pushed against the remaining resin. It cracked one last time. Sira collapsed into Nathan's arms, her legs free but trembling. Nathan wrapped his arm around her waist. She looked up at him, tears brimming in her violet eyes. He held her close, offering what strength he could. Move, Louise yelled, kicking aside fallen branches to create a path. They are close. Nathan lifted Sira. She let him bear her weight. Louise led the way through narrow tunnels between the giant roots. The vine canopy above rustled with the wind. Distant shouts echoed as guards ran toward the grove. They reached a clearing where Nathan's small shuttle sat hidden under camo netting. He set Sira down and placed her gently on the floor beside the pilot seat. Sira reached for Nathan's hand and squeezed it. He smiled despite the fear. Louise fired up the shuttle's engines. The craft's lights blinked on. Behind them, bright spotlights swept the grove. Nathan jumped into the pilot's seat. Louise ran to the co-pilot station. Hang on, Nathan said, his voice tight. The shuttle lurched forward. Its thrusters roared as it lifted off the ground. Trees blurred into streaks of shadow. Below, guards raised their weapons, but the shuttle rose too fast. Inside, Sira clutched Nathan's arm. She shivered. He wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. Louise pulled the transmitter from her pocket. "Now," she said. Nathan keyed the broadcast. His message, along with encrypted data of Sira's memories, streamed through the colony's communication network. Holographic images of the true saboteur, Colonel Varric, drenched in resin, appeared on every monitor. The footage showed Varric ordering Sira's punishment. It showed the other Thalen statues alive and pleading for help. The shuttle's systems groaned as it climbed above the treetops. "Message sent," Nathan said, voice low. "They'll see the truth." Sira rested her head against his shoulder. Relief and exhaustion mingled in her eyes. Nathan felt hope flicker inside him. But victory felt distant. The shuttle's warning lights flashed red. An emergency panel lit up. "Warning, unauthorized departure. Intercept ordered." Louise swore. "We're being hunted." Below, a second shuttle soared into view, its engines roaring as it chased them. Missiles streaked across the sky. Nathan gripped the controls, weaving between mountains of jagged rock. "Sira, are you all right?" he asked, glancing at her. Sira nodded weakly. She raised her hand and brushed his arm, sending him strength. Nathan swallowed and banked hard. The enemy shuttle fired again, but Louise hit the afterburners. 3. Craft shuddered as the missiles exploded nearby. Nathan aimed for a narrow canyon. "Hold on," he shouted. The shuttle dove into darkness. Inside the canyon, the enemy shuttle hesitated. Its sensors lost them amid the shadows. Nathan exhaled. "We're clear, for now." Louise looked at Sira. "She's safe." Sira smiled faintly and touched Nathan's face. He felt her gratitude like warm light. But as they emerged from the canyon, 2 security ships blocked their path. Guns pointed at them. Nathan's shuttle slowed and drifted down. Louise shut off the engines. The craft settled on the rocky ground. Armored soldiers surrounded the shuttle, rifles trained on the windows. A command voice crackled over the comms. "Nathan Hale, you are under arrest for treason and endangering colony security. Step outside with your hands up." Nathan glanced at Sira. She returned his look with calm trust. He took a deep breath, set his jaw, and unbuckled his harness. Nathan sat on the cold metal bench in the holding cell. Pale light from a single lamp cast long lines across the walls. He wrapped his arms around his knees and stared at the sealed door. The night before replayed in his mind. He remembered Sira trapped in thick gray resin. He pressed his fingers into the pocket where the encrypted drive lay. Its weight felt like hope. He whispered to the quiet room that he would not fail her. A faint hum echoed from down the corridor. He drew a slow breath and held it. Sira woke, in soft silver light. Gentle water dripped from stone leaves overhead. She felt warm sap flow under her skin. Around her, Thalen healers knelt with green light in their hands. They spoke in quiet tones, weaving vines to mend her flesh. She curled her toes and flexed her legs. They trembled but held steady. A bright flower opened at her side, its petals cradling healing dew. She drank deeply and felt her mind clear. As she sat among the healers, images flashed in her mind. She saw broken solar panels in the dust. She heard the roar of collapsing turbines. She felt the sting of resin pouring over her legs. She saw Colonel Varric's broad boots and gloved hands. She sensed his anger at the Thalen people. She remembered his voice over the radio, ordering her silence. She recalled the stolen energy pods hidden on his ship. The horror of his betrayal filled her with quiet resolve. An elder named Tel Ram approached her with calm steps. His tall frame shimmered with pale blue light. He knelt before her and placed his hand on her shoulder. She shared her memories, through a gentle touch. He closed his eyes and nodded gravely. His voice spoke softly in her mind. We see the truth. This man would harm our people for profit. He rose and gathered other elders in a circle. They pledged to help her reach the human council. Her hope grew like a rising tide. Tel Ram led her to a hidden orchid grove nearby. A single glowing flower held a data crystal at its center. He explained that the crystal could store visual and audio records. It contained the proof of Varric's crimes. Sira steadied her breath and pressed her palm to the crystal. The images glowed inside its core. Tel Ram said he would hide it inside the colony's supply lines. He named a secret trader who would carry the orchid. Sira bowed in thanks. She felt the heavy weight of her mission settle on her shoulders. Over the next day, Sira practiced walking on soft ground. Her legs grew stronger with each step. She learned to mask her glowing lines with a woven cloak. Thaylen weavers showed her how to braid vines into the cloth. It hid her light from human scanners. She also practiced telepathic projection. She reached out to Nathan with small images of calm forests. He felt the touch in his mind and smiled alone in the cell. She felt his hope in return. They were linked, by more than memory now. Back in his cell, Nathan spotted a small light on his personal terminal. The screen showed Louise's name in green letters. He tapped the panel and read her brief note. Meet at the old plant lab. Bring your comlink. Be ready to show what you know. He traced his finger over the words. His heart lifted with relief. Louise had kept her promise. He felt her trust flow through him. He packed the encrypted drive carefully. The plan was set. Now he only needed to escape. Under a starry sky, Sira slipped into a hidden cargo shuttle. The craft waited among giant roots like a silent guardian. She tucked the orchid bud into her cloak. The data crystal nestled safely in its petals. She placed her hand on the shuttle's door. It hummed as she entered. A soft green light glowed on the control panel. She set the course for the colony and pressed the launch button. The shuttle rose with quiet power. Leaves brushed against its hull as it began to climb. As dawn approached, Nathan heard guards unlocking his cell. They did not shout. They had orders. He stood calmly and tucked his terminal into his pocket. He felt the echo of Sira's touch in his mind. He tightened his jacket around the encrypted drive. The cell door slid open with a hiss. A guard stood by in silent salute. Nathan nodded and walked into the bright corridor. The plant lab lay ahead. He would meet Louise there. He would hold on to hope until she arrived. The council chamber pulsed with quiet tension. High above the floor, a circular gallery held rows of seated officials, their faces lit by cool white lights. At the center, raised on a transparent dais, stood Nathan Hale. His hands were clasped behind his back and his posture was straight. He wore the simple uniform of a junior xenobotanist, now soiled from his recent escape and flight. Across from him, Colonel Maris Varric sat in a heavy chair of polished metal. His uniform was pristine. His eyes were hard. Nathan's heart beat steadily. He had prepared for this moment. At his side, Louise Grant held a slim case containing the encrypted drive. Behind him, Sira waited, cloaked in woven vines that hid her glowing lines. She had learned to walk steadily, even in the thin air. Today, her voice would matter. The chief counselor, an elder human named Anya Solon, tapped her gavel. "This council is now in session," she declared. "We hear charges of treason against Colonel Varric, brought by Nathan Hale and supported by testimony from the Thaylen ambassador." Her gaze slid to Varric. "Colonel, how do you plead?" Varric rose, his stance rigid. "I plead not guilty," he said, voice cold. "The charges are baseless. This is a human conspiracy against our military leadership." A murmur rippled through the officials. Anya raised her hand for silence. "The prosecution may present its evidence." Nathan stepped forward. He unclasped his hands. "Your Excellencies," he began in a clear voice, "I stand before you not as a soldier, but as a scientist, and as of yesterday, a rescuer of an innocent Thaylen girl. We bring proof that Colonel Varric ordered her punishment for a crime she did not commit." He signaled to Louise, who opened the case and inserted the drive into a hollow projector. Images sprang to life in midair. Scenes of Sira bound in gray cement, her violet eyes wide with fear. Varric's helmeted figure pouring resin over her legs. The environmental sensors cut off, and the hidden energy pods loaded onto his ship. The gallery lights dimmed around the projection, focusing every eye on the floating evidence. Gasps echoed in the chamber. Several counselors leaned forward. Nathan continued. These energy pods were taken without council approval, sold to off-world traders. When Sira protested, Colonel Varric framed her as a saboteur to hide his crimes. He stepped back. Louise withdrew a small vial and placed it on a side table. We also submit a polymer sample taken from the resin. A Thalen laboratory confirms it contains human-made compounds, not natural Thalen sap. Anya Solon examined the vial with a small light. She turned to a human specialist beside her. He nodded and spoke into his comm. Confirmed. The sample matches terrestrial polymers used in terraforming project equipment. The specialist's voice carried across the chamber. Varric's jaw tightened. He rose again, voice rising. This evidence is fabricated. I demand to know how a junior researcher accessed secure facilities and data. Several officials murmured. Nathan raised a hand. Colonel, you cut power to the sensor network to avoid detection. We have the logs. I can show them. He gestured, and the projector switched to lines of code, timestamps, and power draw charts showing the exact blackout period. The code bore Varric's security signature. The silence was absolute. Varric stepped forward, eyes blazing. This is an outrage. The Thalen have long protested our presence here. This is their attempt to undermine human authority. He pointed at Sira. And you dare to bring her here to spout lies. She is a plant creature. What value does her word have against a decorated officer? Sira stood, her cloak falling away to reveal the faint glow of her markings. She raised her chin. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried through the chamber like wind over glass. I speak the truth. I felt the resin. I felt his anger. My people do not lie. Her eyes shone with steady light. Nathan felt a wave of awe. The council chamber was again quiet, this time with wonder. A Thalen counselor, tall and graceful, stepped forward. We accept her testimony. She is one of us and a witness to his crimes. Murmurs of agreement followed. Anya Solon turned to Varric. Colonel, your defense? Varric hesitated, then said, I will not stand judged by aliens and inexperienced scientists. He looked around for allies. Some guards shifted uncomfortably. I request a delay. Anya shook her head. Enough. The evidence is clear. You will be detained pending full investigation. At that moment, the doors burst open. A dozen soldiers in human and Thalen uniforms marched in, led by General Kimura, head of the Colonial Security Force. She walked to the dais, saluted the council, and addressed Varric. By order of the council, Colonel Maris Varric, you are under arrest for misconduct, treason, and endangering alien and human lives. Varric's face went pale. He looked at Nathan and Sira with fury, then sank back onto his chair. Soldiers cuffed his wrists and led him away as the chamber erupted in applause. Nathan exhaled, shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. He turned to Sira, who offered him a small, grateful smile. Louise stepped up and embraced him lightly. The council chamber's high ceiling echoed with cheers and calls for unity. Anya Solon tapped the gavel. Let this be the last voice of division. Let it be the first of cooperation. She raised her voice. All humans and Thalen together will forge a new path. This council stands united. A warm light seemed to fill the room. Nathan felt hope as he looked at Sira, whose faint glow pulsed with quiet pride. Together, they had rooted out the truth, and now they would help the colony grow in peace. The morning sun touched the horizon with soft orange light, spilling over the rebuilt colony plaza. Nathan Hale and Sira walked side by side along a new path of polished stone. Around them, Alien and human settlers moved quietly, pausing to look at the memorial ahead. It was a gentle curve of white marble, embedded with living plants that glowed faintly under the dawn sky. When Nathan first found Sira in the grove, her legs were trapped in thick gray resin. Now where her feet had once been bound, a circle of vibrant flowers had grown. Petals of violet and blue opened toward the sun, their colors echoing her living glow. Nathan stopped and reached out to touch a blossom. Its petals felt soft and warm, like living silk. Sira knelt beside him, her glowing lines tracing gentle patterns across her arms. She bent forward and placed a small, woven Thalen ribbon at the base of the flowers. The ribbon's green threads shimmered as it settled among the leaves. She did not speak aloud, but Nathan understood her gratitude and joy. At the edge of the plaza, Louise Grant and Colonel Rhea Kimura stood waiting. Both wore simple robes of earth white and Thalen green, symbols of the new council that governed humans and Thalen together. Louise waved and called, "Nathan, Sira, welcome to the first Unity Garden ceremony." Nathan smiled and led Sira forward. Around them, townspeople gathered in respectful silence. Some held woven lanterns, others carried bouquets of fresh flowers. A soft breeze carried the scent of jasmine and alien moss, blending into a sweet promise of peace. Rhea Kimura stepped to the podium by the memorial. The sun rose higher, casting rings of light across her face. She spoke in clear, calm tones. "Today, we honor a moment of courage that changed our world. In this garden, we remember every being who was bound by fear, but who found freedom through trust." She gestured to the marble circle. Where Sira once stood trapped, these flowers now grow. They stand for life, for hope, and for the promise that no injustice goes unseen. The crowd bowed their heads. Sira rose and took Nathan's hand. Nathan squeezed her fingers gently and guided her to stand on the flower circle. At once, soft tendrils of light wove through the petals. The ground around them glowed, and the flowers opened wider as if greeting the dawn. Sira closed her eyes and let her healing energy flow into the garden. Nathan felt warmth spread through his chest. He watched as the flowers pulsed gently, their light matching Sira's own rhythm. The crowd gasped in awe. When the glow dimmed, Sira spoke for the first time in the plaza. Her voice was soft but carried clearly across the silent field. "I was bound by cement. I was silenced by fear. But one human saw my truth. He freed me, and in doing so, he freed us all." Her words hung in the air like a promise. Nathan felt tears sting at his eyes. He bowed his head respectfully. Sira smiled and turned to him, her violet eyes shining bright. Rhea Kimura nodded and raised her hand in blessing. "Let this garden be a reminder to all. When we choose empathy over suspicion, unity over division, we grow stronger together." She stepped back as the crowd erupted in gentle applause. After the ceremony, Nathan and Sira walked among the guests. Children reached out to touch Sira's glowing vines, and she laughed, a soft, musical sound that echoed through the plaza. Nathan introduced her to settlers who had once feared the Thalen. Now they greeted her with open hands and warm smiles. Louise joined them, carrying a small sapling in a transparent pot. "This is the first human-Thalen hybrid seed," she said, with excitement. "It combines earth roses with Thalen sunflower petals. Would you plant it here with us?" Sira accepted the pot and knelt in a patch of fresh soil by the memorial. Nathan helped her dig a small hole. Together they set the sapling in the earth and covered its roots. As they patted the soil down, the leaves shimmered with new light. Nathan straightened and brushed dirt from his knees. He looked at Sira. "You've given this place new life," he said softly. She nodded and touched his hand. In his mind, he felt her gratitude and trust. He smiled, knowing their bond was stronger than any words. Over the next hours, people planted their own flowers around the memorial. Alien vines curled around human roses. Bright petals formed rings of rainbow light. Laughter filled the air as children raced through the new garden, and elders told stories of old grudges turned to friendship. As the sun climbed high, Nathan and Sierra stood at the edge of the plaza, watching the scene. A gentle breeze stirred, the leaves and petals carrying the mixed scents of both worlds. Nathan felt a deep peace settle in his heart. Sierra looked up at the sky and raised her arms. Light danced along her skin, bright as a beacon. Nathan joined her, lifting his arms to the sun. For a moment they stood together in silence, part human, part Thalen, but wholly united in hope. At last, Sierra lowered her arms and smiled at Nathan. He took her hand and they walked down the path, leaving behind a circle of flowers that would bloom forever. Where she once had been trapped, life now flourished, and a new chapter had begun. For them, and for all who dared to choose unity.